going to show you how to make a crochet foundation chain. It's the starting point for loads of crochet patterns, lots and lots of them. And if you imagine crochet like a little wall that you're going to make with stitches, then this is essentially your first row of woolly bricks. Just a quick word about how to hold your hook and yarn if you're a beginner. Lots of people hold their hook like a pencil. That works really well. I hold it, there's a convenient sort of narrow bit there that I hold it like this, and that works well as well. Just about 3 or 4 centimetres away from the end of the hook. In terms of holding your yarn, I use my finger and thumb to hold my working yarn, and the work itself, I hold it like this. Then what you need to do is use the rest of your fingers on your left hand, if you're a right-handed person, to allow the yarn to come through your fingers. Don't pinch it very tightly, but use it almost as a little yarn guide to allow it to come through. That stops it tangling, it stops it sort of going astray, and it keeps the tension consistent. What's going to be happening is that you're going to be moving the hook between your finger and thumb and the rest of your hand here, and you're going to be grabbing the yarn here. So this is the place where the stitchy magic will be happening. You may be wondering what this metal attachment is here. It's actually my yarn bowl, which is a kilner jar. I've taken the lid off and I've threaded the yarn through this clasp here, and it keeps your yarn neat. It doesn't fall away where a cat can get it, and it works incredibly well as a little yarn feed. So before we make our foundation chain, we're going to have to make something called a slip knot, okay, to begin with. The way to do that is to make a loop like this, and ensure that, so there's the end of the yarn, okay, make a loop so that the yarn travels towards the sort of southwest there, and then behind the loop, bring the yarn through, just poke it through like that and bring it through with your fingers, okay, and then pull, and that makes a slip knot. And the reason it's called a slip knot is that you can sort of slip it actually off the yarn entirely. You pull it, it'll go. So I'll do that again. There we go, like that, and then pull the yarn through to make that slip knot. And it can be slipped so that it can be larger or smaller. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller by literally pulling the yarn. You can adjust the size of this there, and that's about the right size. And there's the end of my yarn. Okay, so that's our slip knot, which is our very first step. Then holding the yarn, as I mentioned, so finger and thumb on your slip knot, and drape the yarn through the rest of your fingers like that. That's your little yarn guide to allow the yarn to slip through. I'm going to poke my hook through the slip knot, and then, as I was saying, we're going to make the stitches by moving the hook round the yarn in this area between the finger and thumb and the rest of your hand. I'm going to move the hook behind the yarn like that, and then the yarn slips into the little hook at the end. And then I'm going to move the hook slightly towards my face, so from that area, from that orientation to that orientation, and then I'm going to pull it through that slip knot, and we've made our first chain. So I'm going to show you that again, and they all interlink into one another, so the more you make, the longer your chain will become, and you will eventually be counting the numbers of chains if you're starting a pattern, because it'll ask you to make, say, multiples of 4. Okay, so I'm going to bring my hook underneath the yarn like that so that it catches in the hooky bit at the end. I'm going to move it towards my face a little bit, and that allows you to catch the yarn rather than it slipping off. And then I'm going to pull it through that loop, and you can see that the chain is growing. So I'm going to do it a couple more times. Pull the hook underneath the yarn like that, so the yarn is caught in the hook at the end. I'm going to pull it through, move it towards my face a little so that it catches it, pull it through, and that's another stitch. Hook under the yarn, caught on the hook, move it towards my face a little, and pull through. And you can see that the yarn is passing through my fingers and being kept kind of neat rather than wobbling around like a worm. So again, the hook goes under the yarn. I move the hook towards my face a little so that it catches it. And I'm going to pull it through. And I've made a chain there, which is the starting point for so many patterns. And the chain itself is often used to move from one part of your crochet to the next. So this shawl I made, there's chain here between these clusters of stitches, and it's actually made to make a beautiful design element within the shawl. It makes it sort of lacy, rather spiderweb like. But actually this shawl that I'm making, the chain itself is the main event. So it's not just a boring starting point, it can actually be used to make really, really beautiful crochet. And just a word about the yarn, it's from Libby Summers, and it's chunky yarn. It's a great idea to start with chunky yarn because it's much easier to see where you're putting your hook. I hope you found that useful. If you've got any questions or you want to show me your crochet chain, tweet me at Silver Pebble or at Standard Issue UK, and I'll be making more crochet videos and tutorials. We'll be working on different types of stitches, double and treble, and then making patterns as well. So I hope it was helpful.